Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books Author Reading Series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real-live bookseller, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Okay, I'm going to read very, very briefly. Very briefly. And then Matthew will speak.
Stop. Don't read too briefly.
I'm going to read pretty briefly. Because the faster I read, the faster we get to drink and eat more cake. I thought I knew what I would read. I do know what I'm going to read. Okay. There's a part in this at the beginning of this book where it's raining in June in Los Angeles, and I thought, I have to read that part. And then it's really only like a paragraph and a half, and then the part that comes after isn't as evocative, so not reading about rain in June, but it's in there. Okay. Fresno smelled like dust and the start of rotting fruit. It was afternoon when we arrived, and the sun was high and hot. Once we got out of the center of town, off the 99, down Avenue 7, halfway to Farrar, through the vineyards on the one-lane road to the house, you could begin to smell the briny river and the algae that grows up the sides of canals. It had been the third bad year in a row for water. The canals were nearly empty. The smell of the river and the dust in the vineyards always made me homesick. Homesick while I was standing right there at home. I think I'm developing a limp, I said. Okay, Anne said. She pulled my small suitcase out of the back. Don't angle for attention when I'm already giving it to you. I can't move. I sat in the car with the door open. The heat hit you hard enough to make your ears ring, an open-handed smack. The air was sharp with dust. You're being pathetic. She dragged the suitcase through the carport to the kitchen. You need to get something in you. Through the screen door, I saw our mother playing solitaire at the table in her nightgown, the back of her hair pushed up flat into a pile from sleeping, her free hotel slippers worn through to the soles. Mother had a whole closet full of free hotel slippers, still in their canvas bags, but she would keep washing the old ones until they entirely disintegrated. Free hotel slippers last longer than you think. Mother had been collecting them for 30 years. Let me finish this game, Mom said to Anne as she came through the door. This does not look good, she said to the cards, shaking her head. This is not good, as if she blamed our rival. It's sweltering in here, Anne said. We are conserving electricity, Mother said. It's 100 degrees out there, Anne said. Turn on the air, will you? Have some ice water, Mother told her. There she is, Mother called out to the car. Don't sit there, Inky. Come inside. It's cooler in the car, Anne said. If you would like to pay the electric bill, Anne, that's fine, Mother said. What's wrong with the screen door? It didn't slam behind me the way it usually did. The spring was broken. I don't know, Mom said. You step into this house and you start complaining. When I ask for your opinion, you don't give it. When I don't want it, you're yakking all over the place. One eyelash extension wobbled independently of the rest. This house is falling apart, Anne said. Don't you fall apart, Mother. Me, Mother said. I am entirely put together. She smoothed down the front of her wild hair. I just got up. Tiny pieces of down were stuck in the dark curls around her face. How was the drive? She hugged me. She was damp with sweat and she smelled like sleep. Anne says, the rumors are true. There's not a tree full of fruit between here and Ventura. I think I'm going to stop there. That feels good. Now I've put all the pressure on Matthew to talk.
Yeah, it's also one of the very rare times that one goes to reading and I wish that you would have gone on for quite a while.
Yes.
And I'm sure I'm not alone in that.
I don't think so.
One of the, as that little very brief excerpt might start to give you an inkling, and most of you probably know this, but this book is about Ingrid, the heroine, going home to her family's vineyard and staying perhaps a little longer than she initially intends. And when I remember us having a conversation about this, and you said that when you initially conceived the book and when you wrote the first draft of it, it wasn't about that at all. The vineyard was sort of mentioned in a paragraph or something.
The vineyard
like that?
was originally a peach orchard, and when I sold this book in 2005, it's been a long process. Ordeal. It's been a long ordeal. It was about the New York art world. I had written 75 pages because my agent wanted to do a 2-book deal, and I wrote about the New York art world, and there was one paragraph about a girl who came from a peach orchard, who grew up on a peach orchard in Fresno. And when I went out to drinks with the woman who became my editor, she said, "How do you feel about that second novel?" And I said, I had 2 Manhattans. And I said, I am not interested at all in that second novel. I said, the only part that even interests me is the peach orchard. And she says, that's the part that interests me. So I completely threw out the book. I kept the paragraph about the peaches. I changed, and it was a long process writing the book, but I did change it pretty early on to grapes. They're riskier, and so they felt more vital.
And they play a huge part. You strike me as much more knowledgeable about wine in the book than...
Now I am. I did a lot of research. Super fun research. My father has these grape farming friends, and I was having trouble with the book. I was ready to throw it out, and I called up my editor. I said, this is the one we throw out. This is the book that's not going to work. And she said, oh, no. You need to put... Ingrid was not on the farm. She was telling the story. She says, you need to put Ingrid on the farm. And I said, do you know how much research I would have to do to put Ingrid on the farm? And she says, Katherine, do your research. So I went up to Fresno and drove around with the farmers for 2 or 3 harvests in a row.
The only reason that I even feel inclined to ask these questions about, and you refer to the book as an ordeal, is because it couldn't read less like one. I mean, it's really kind of the most natural and kind of delightfully natural novel that I've read this year. And one of the things that strikes me most about it is its incredible doubleness of tone. As you guys probably could tell from hearing her read it, it's funny. It's very funny. Consistently hilarious, and yet one would have to be an idiot to read it as a comedy. The other day, I was leafing through it, and there's a moment in which she's mentioning how Ingrid had a roommate who used to leave Post-it notes around the house. They would leave Post-it notes with lines from films kind of stuck around, and one of the lines was. Do you like a cold apple? And I thought, God, that's such a great line. Surely that's from Billy Wilder or some sort of fantastic. And I emailed you and I said, Katherine, is that a real? Where's that from? And you said it's from Fatso, the Dom DeLuise movie, and which I had never seen, and which I now will second Catherine's incredible recommendation of. It's worth Netflixing and YouTubing. But
Matthew said, I can't believe you don't know The Godfather and you know Fatso.
But what you said, when we were talking about that film, you said, you said, oh, it's so, in that scene in particular, the cold apple scene, you said, oh, it's so fantastic. You just watch it and there's such pathos in it. You don't know whether to laugh or commit suicide. Like everything good. And I thought, well, that's I mean, that's more or less true of this book. I don't know about suicide. You don't know whether to laugh or sort of take to your bed for a week.
I don't know why. The other day, my family's been in town, and the other day we were talking about the movie Fatso, and a movie loved by all the Taylors, and we looked up. One of the first things that comes up when you look up the movie is Roger Ebert's review, and he gave it this vicious, terrible review in '81 or something when it came out, and what he said is, well, the movie doesn't know what it is. You don't know whether you're supposed to laugh or whether you're supposed to cry.
Right.
You're an idiot.
Right. But the book does move. That to me is its kind of, one of its most stunning features is that it moves at this kind of giddy comedic gallop, and at the same time is so piercing. I had read, you'd given me the book in manuscript, and then I had a galley which I gave to someone else because I felt they needed to read it, and I hadn't read the last 25 pages until this past weekend. And you're right, they're the best part.
Read through to the end.
Another thing that this book does that I would not have anticipated any novel being able to do for me was give me a sort of direct to my yearning towards Fresno. I feel like you really, and we saw this too, I think, at the beginning of the passage that you read. I mean, you evoke its geography and its heat and its moods, and I found myself thinking, God, has there ever been such a beautiful love letter? I mean, I know there is obviously a great literary tradition of Central Californian literature and authors who've written very specifically about Fresno, but I don't know if they've done it so fondly. Little did I know.
I have a really complicated relationship with my hometown, and I think when I was writing, I thought you can't write. I read in an interview the other day where apparently I said, I don't know where all my hostility toward my hometown comes from. So I don't like to use the word hostility, but it is an emotion that comes up when I think about where I'm from. And but when I was writing the book, you can't write about a place and feel hostile toward it. So I wrote from a place of sort of pure love.
Yeah,
it
really comes across. But why do you think that is? I mean, not the why do you love it, but why do you think you can't write from a place of pure hostility? I mean, you say that, and I think I just wonder.
I think you can. I can't sustain a hostile, angry tone.
Right.
I don't know. I don't enjoy books that sustain a hostile, angry tone.
Yeah. Nor do I. But.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Shall we take questions so we can start eating and drinking?
Sure. Let's. Yes. Yeah.
I was wondering, before you submit a manuscript, how many people do you show it to, if anyone?
I wrote this one for a long time, and I wasn't sure when I wanted to show it to anyone. Also, I wasn't even sure when I started liking the manuscript. It was a long, long process. And in 2009, I threw the entire thing out. So everything I'd written between 2005 and 2009 got completely discarded, and I started over. And I mean, a different voice and some of the same characters and the same story, but I just didn't even keep anything that was in the first manuscript. And so I don't know when I started showing it to people. Really, I mean, a couple of my readers, Matthew is one, and Elizabeth is over there. Elizabeth still hasn't read it. It's like I was afraid. It was like I was so insecure about this book. I was like afraid to let the people I respect even look at it. And so, a couple of really close friends who aren't book writers, a screenwriter, and. Actually, the person who read it was my editor because she had to know I was writing something. So I didn't give it to anyone really until the very, very end. I gave it to Matthew right before it went into transmission.
Yeah, it was done. I mean.
Yeah, it was pretty much done, except for the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you get past that fear? Was it the editor responding positively, or how did you get past it where you can sit here now and tell us to read it?
I had a contract, and the editor told me, you have to write this book. I really was ready to throw it out. And then when she said, you have to... I think that doing the research really invigorated me. When I started going up there and actually taking the rides on the tractors, I was like, oh my, how could I even conceived of writing this book without having already done this? It made almost no sense then. And so when I started doing a lot of research, my excitement ramped up and the fear kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
How many revisions have you done?
700. There's been a lot of. I mean, are you talking about the first draft or the second, or the first manuscript? If you start in 2009, 40. Yeah, I don't know. Elizabeth has a question.
Yeah.
Well, so as you pointed out to everyone, I haven't read it yet.
Sorry.
I'm curious about the ending process, because I think you and I have actually talked about this. So many books, they're amazing all the way to the last 20, 30 pages, and they just start. I don't even read the last 15 pages of any book anymore. I'm scared to. So how did you? What was it like to go from the first couple tries at an ending? And how did you, was there an epiphany moment?
I knew what was going to happen at the end. I knew what would happen. I was just having a really hard time writing it. And it went through 30 drafts at least. And I waited until the very end of my deadline to even write the first draft of the ending. And then the editor said, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work. I sent it to people. I sent it to a friend who's really good with structure, and I said, "Why is this ending not working?" And he explained it to me very clearly, and which was essentially you need to have a larger conflict and a larger confrontation at the end. I thought I had already written a confrontation, but apparently I had not. So what I did was I wrote what I almost thought was a farce of a confrontation. I thought it was such an obvious confrontation, which I usually don't write. Everything I like to be under the surface. And people love it. So
you don't have to go back up into the first 1/3 of the book and change things to lead up to that.
I did a little bit. I had to increase Anne's character throughout. I wasn't willing to get rid of Anne, but she needed to have some role in the end in order to justify keeping her, and so I did have to go back and increase her role throughout. So, minor stuff compared to the kind of revision I had done before, throwing everything out.
Breaks? Did you give yourself some time to work on other projects in between?
No. I'm a miserable person. I sit at my desk all day. I don't see anyone. No, I wasn't writing anything. When I spoke to my publicist, she's like, "What have you been doing since 2007?"
I'm finding it very hard to square the glum portrait you're painting with both the book you've written and the person you are. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you predicted the California drought?
Yeah.
There's Meryl. Meryl's around here. So that was not in the book until last year.
Really?
It's so mercenary. I was doing a final rewrite, and I didn't want to deal with water. When I was it's too political. I didn't want to deal with it, but then the drought just went on and on and on. And so I said to Meryl last summer, I said, I had made a point of saying there was not a drought, that the problem with the grapes and the peaches in the book did not come from water, because I didn't want to deal with it. Well, then I said to Meryl, maybe I should just change it so that it did come from water. He said, "Yes, Catherine." So yes, clearly I did.
Yeah.
You said the research process reinvigorated kind of the writing process. How much did that inform, structure and outline? Or did you already have the outline and that just kind of helped fill it in? Or was it?
I can't outline. But when I started going up and riding around with the farmers, everything that I wanted to happen in the book that in my version was happening in about 15 pages, then the whole meaning sort of revealed itself to me. I don't even know how to explain it. I just felt this whole new energy and everything fell together. I highly recommend research.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the time a little bit? Is everybody in the book accurate about it?
I'm not going to tell you if anyone gets valley fever, but I can tell you about the title. I was writing, and I was at my parents' house in Michigan, and it was me and my mother, who's right here. Hi, Mom. My mother and I were at the house by ourselves, and she knows not to disturb me when I'm writing there. It can be violent sometimes. And so I had come down for water or something, and she says, Katherine, I know I'm not supposed to interrupt you, but I must tell you something. Something has occurred to me. And she says, our accountant has this fungus called valley fever, and I had never heard of it. And she says, I don't know why I think I should tell you about this. And she told me all about valley fever and the symptoms, and then she says, and also I think that would be a very good title.
And right she was.
And I said, thanks for the tip, Mom.
Yeah.
Joel Michaely.
You make us wait for the third book now.
Joel, you're not going to have to wait. I am going to have a draft done by the end of the year. This is not going to be this painful, excruciating process that it was this time. I can't do that again.
Yeah.
So you talked about how long it took you to do all the research and get the feel of, Fresno and all of that. But what about the personal story? Did you already have that all mapped out before you set it?
Before I knew anything, and I've never written even a short story like this before, but before I knew anything, I knew the story. It's the very basic outline of the story is something that happened to a family friend of ours when I was very young. And so I knew I wanted to write that, and then everything else grew around it. Should we eat and drink? Yes, I'm getting a nod. Yes.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books Author Reading Series. Don't forget that you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.